The following is a presentation of WLCN 96.3 FM and WLCNonline.com. This live video stream is made possible in part by WLCN's live stream technology sponsor, Me Realty, located at 602 Keokuk Street in Lincoln, and online at merealty.com.
Again on this fall September Wednesday. We have some wonderful guests with us today. Before we go to them, we're going to do a shout out kudos of a Bill Gossett style. Honor flight got back yesterday, so thank you very much to the volunteers that make it happen, who do get to go along with our veterans. And again, thank you to our veterans for your service. We greatly appreciate you and hope you had a wonderful time yesterday in DC. Today we have with us Brianne Titus from Capsule, Todd Henry from Workcamp for Lincoln. Welcome. Thank you, both of you, for coming in. And I cannot believe we're talking about 2026. We're, about not quite a year out, I guess less than a year out from the Workcamp. And it's going on its third, I don't want to say year because it's not the year, but the third time this is taking place in Logan County, correct?
Yep.
Yes. Awesome. So Todd, give us a little bit of history. What is Workcamp for Lincoln for those of you or for our listeners or don't know what we're talking about?
So Workcamp is a home repair event where hundreds of teenagers come into a community outside of their own. They travel in, youth groups and youth leaders, and repair homes totally free of charge. No charge for materials or labor, that kind of thing. Do a variety of different things, build wheelchair ramps, repair porches, do drywall, roofing, gutters, all kinds of different stuff, weatherization. The history is that this is my 27th year of doing work camps with this organization all around the country every summer. That's kind of what I do. I'm a teacher, so I have my summers off. And around 2019 or so, I had an idea that, like, why couldn't we do one of these in Lincoln? I'm doing them in every other community and stuff, helping that leadership. And so 2021, I made it happen and was successful. And so they asked us to do another one in 2024. And then we were actually shooting for 2027, but the organization called us and said, hey, you guys do a good job, and youth groups are wanting to come back to Lincoln, to the cornfields, and so would you do another one in 2026? And so we said yes and jumped on it, and so that's what we're doing next June.
Wonderful. And I understand applications, you're accepting them right now and making that big push right now for individuals to get their applications filled out, turned in ASAP. Tell our listeners, why are you stressing this to hurry up and get this done? Because, in our minds, it's not until the summer of 2026, and we're in September 2025. Why is such a big push to get the applications in?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that have to happen from now until then. And so the application process just went live on Monday. And so we just kind of really made a full announcement last week that this was happening in 2026. There'd been some rumor that it was coming, but we just made a full announcement. And then the application went live on Monday. For every applicant, there's a process that they have to follow. They have to start through the capsule website. They have to provide a pre-qualification survey to us, to kind of marking some information about their home and what the work they're hoping to get done based on a checklist that's provided. And then we have to verify their home ownership to make sure that they own the property. And then there's a local assessment team that we work with that are volunteers that go out to the home to look at what the work needs to be done, make sure it kind of matches the pre-qualification survey, or maybe there's additional things that our assessment team will look for and say, hey, what about this? And they talk to the homeowner, kind of get on the same page, and then there's that report, I guess, that they kind of gather, that information that they gather, and then they submit that to the national organization that we partner with. There's a lot of things logistically that have to happen after those local assessments, what materials we need to order, how long it's going to take to get the materials, getting the volunteers organized, getting the local materials accounted for and ordered, or whatever that looks like, before the kids even arrive. We want to make sure everything is ready to go before the kids physically get here. And so there's a lot of things that happen on behind the scenes before that happens.
That must need to be done.
Yes. Absolutely.
And in a practical way, like say they need a wheelchair ramp, these guys want to go out and measure and see where it's actually going to go. Well, if there's snow on the ground, then they can't see whether there's a sidewalk, or they can't measure as well, and that kind of thing. So we're trying to get it out. And they're telling us, please, in the fall, can you get us out there so we're decent weather so we can check these homes out?
So this is why we have the urgency, I guess you could say, of getting it out there and letting folks know, hey, get your applications in. Because from my understanding, I listened, you were at a meeting last night, Todd. You do have some individuals come when the crews are there, or know that the crews are coming, and go, I forgot, I didn't know anything about it, and I'm not poking fun at them, but still, they're too late, so trying to get ahead of this.
And it is kind of a first come, first serve kind of thing too when we put it in the list. I mean, it has to fit the qualifications, but we'll go by kind of when those came in as well and stuff, so it just behooves people to get them in as early as possible.
And this is not so, tell our listeners when they hear or see any advertisements about this, it's Workcamp for Lincoln, but this is not just for the city of Lincoln residents, correct?
Right.
And so tell them a little bit about the history. I think it's really neat with your logo on your shirts, and if people look at it on social media, you do have a picture of Abraham Lincoln in the house. I think that's really neat.
Yep.
But tell us a little bit of history of
Yeah,
Lincoln there.
I've taken a little heat for that for Workcamp for Lincoln, because then when I've traveled around to other Logan County towns, I understand it's like, is this really a thing where you're wanting our support, but it's really going to be in Lincoln and that kind of thing. But it was really for Abe Lincoln, who spent his life committed to causes greater than himself, and that's hence the logo and that kind of thing. But it's all Logan County, and we really want to have homes that we work on in all different towns in Logan County. It's been a struggle, and that's why we're hoping in 2026 we have lots of them. We've been in Mount Pulaski and Atlanta, New Holland, but we'd like to have more and spread out. So just because we haven't had the people turn in the applications, then yeah, 80 to 90% of the homes the last 2 times have been in Lincoln, but not by intention. It's just that's where the applications have come in. So we're really making a push, and yeah, being at the county board last night, just really emphasizing, please send us, in your circle of influence, whoever's out there that is in the different Logan County town stuff. Certainly, we'll go wherever.
And I know we talked, you attend a church that does build wheelchair ramps, but however, within some of the congregations, and this is faith-based. It's not a Catholic faith-based. It's not denominational, whether it be Baptist, Lutheran, whatever. It's just truly faith-based. So what I'm getting at is explain to our listeners, if somebody has somebody in their congregation and their church is unable to help do any home repairs or build a wheelchair ramp, kind of educate our listeners about that.
Yeah, we're not supported by just one church that's doing this and asking everybody else to get involved. Capsule is our co-sponsor, but we have several churches involved financially as well as support with volunteers. And yeah, I know at my own church that people come all the time and say, I need a wheelchair ramp or I need this. And some churches have that means, they have the money or they have the guys or gals to construct it and stuff, but a lot of them don't. And so I'm encouraging when I'm going to the churches to say, use us as a vehicle to extend the outreach of your ministry. You have someone in your church that needs this, let us do that for them and stuff. And by association, support us financially, and then you could tell that person, we support Workcamp for Lincoln because we can't start a whole nother ministry like this in our local church, but yet these guys can get it done. And that's been accomplished several times over the last 2.
So also that kind of leads us into the 501c3. Also educate our listeners about that if they're kind of hesitant going, I don't know if I really, want to get it because it's faith-based. So tell our listeners, about how this works behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. So the national organization requires a co-sponsor to be a 501c3, which is a nonprofit. And so that's kind of where we got connected with Todd and started this process back in 2021. And then we kind of actually were the full co-sponsor in 24. And then again this year, or going into 26. So, we have this component that is very different. So we have the population that we deal with on a day-to-day basis that are probably in the most need of some of these home repairs and things of that nature. We also get daily phone calls asking for help with a wheelchair ramp or help with, different projects that they just can't afford to do or just can't physically able to do. And so, unfortunately, there's a lot of cases where we don't have, outside of Workcamp for Lincoln, we as Capsule do not have another funding source or another service or program within our agency that does these kinds of home repairs. Yes, we have weatherization, but as far as the breakdown of what weatherization does and what they can do under their funding source compared to what Workcamp for Lincoln can do is actually very different. And sometimes they get connected and they're like, oh, well, weatherization could do that. No, weatherization could not. So, we're trying to find different ways to serve the community the best way we can. And his mention with some of these local churches, some of the smaller churches, they just don't have the capacity to, whether it's not the labor they don't have, whether it's the finances that they don't have, whatever that looks like, they just don't have the capacity to help some of their members with something significant like this. And so referring them to Capsule, referring them to the Workcamp for Lincoln project allows us to be able to say, hey, we can help do that. And maybe that's a smaller church that says, we can't afford to build an entire wheelchair ramp for one person in our congregation, but we can make a monetary donation towards the overall project that's going to be happening. So it doesn't have to be some of the larger churches, it can be the smaller ones, but we're looking for those people that desperately need the help. This is not an income-based program. That's one of the things I think with having the connection to Capsule, people think that they have to fall within a certain income bracket. They don't. Obviously, majority of the people we're going to be working with or that are going to be applying are going to fall probably into a lower income category. Maybe it's a fixed income category, disability, any vulnerable population, our elderly population, veterans, etc. But there is no a guideline that says you can't make so much money. So if you need the help, if you're disabled or you're elderly or you just don't have the resources to do it, that's what we're here for.
And that said, every time we've done this, I've had a couple ladies come to me and say, off the record, I'm not poor, but if I pay part of the materials, I really need a wheelchair ramp. I can't build it and do that. And that's why we don't have that poverty line kind of thing. And so potential applicants could be someone in that situation that just really needs that for mobility, and they aren't necessarily fit into those categories, but we would still serve them and make that happen to
And it's a great way to pool our resources, not just, the labor, but pooling the money as well, and putting it all together and really going out there and doing a true community service project.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that I think Capsule is very focused on. We just had our strategic planning, and one of the things that came out of that was really focusing on taking these organizations, small, large, of all different shapes and sizes, and really trying to partner with as many as we can to make things like this happen. Rather than every organization trying to make a big impact on their own, it's just not feasible for a lot of them, and in the financial climate that we're in, it makes it even more difficult. And so rather than double up the service or double up doing these types of
ramps, but again, I want to alliterate to our listeners, interior, exterior painting, even if you have a painting job, gutter repair, also roof patching, deck, porch repair, and many more things that they can, that Workcamp for Lincoln can do, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, and one other pitch I'd like to make is for volunteers. In addition, it's really neat because the work is actually done by teenagers, and it's adult supervision, but really that means that, when there's a wheelchair ramp, that probably with adults, they could do it in 2 or 3 days. It's going to take teenagers a full week to get it done because there's going to be mistakes made or different things, but they're learning. Some of them have never held a power saw in their hand and that kind of thing, but they get to do the work. Anything that they can do, the adults will have them do it. There might be a time when an adult has to say, I need to make this cut because it's very important, or that kind of thing, but absolutely. But volunteers, there's probably 50 to 100 volunteers that we use as well, that participate. Some of the people that go out and show them how to do the work, or that serve the kids while they're out there and stuff. So yeah, we definitely could use volunteers as well. So if there are people that have a skill set of construction or that kind of thing that would like to plug in and be involved in Workcamp as well, we have places for that.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so there's other pieces, I think, than just the home repair that we like to look at, is like the youth development piece. I mean, these kids are getting a multi-generational experience, not only outside of the faith component that they get during the work camp itself, but they're learning skills. They're learning real life skills that are going to potentially take them somewhere else in life, and working under those adults that have that skill set. And some of these adults that are volunteering, I mean, they work professionally in these fields, and so they're learning from somebody that not only has potentially made a living doing some type of construction, but just overall can teach them great skills to take throughout their life. So there's a youth development component. And then there's just this, community beautification slash pride that comes along with this, because I have met throughout this, I haven't done it as long as Todd, obviously, and haven't traveled all over, but I've met people throughout this project that, have said they knew that their home was an eyesore and they couldn't do anything about it, whether that was financially, whether that was physically, they could not do it, and maybe it was just a fresh coat of paint that it needed, something as basic as that. They couldn't do it themselves. And, just having these kids come and be able to freshen up their home made them so much more happy and proud of the home that they lived in, and definitely changed their perception of what the community can do for them. So, it helps when people come into our community and see these homes that look nice and have been refreshed, and they enjoy seeing the kids, I think, out working. And
I've heard the homeowners really do love to interact with the youth there for the week.
We encourage that. I mean, we even say that really there's the faith component, but then the interaction with the residents is almost, we say, more important than the job sometimes and stuff, because you can be real task oriented and go, no, I have to get this wheelchair ramp done, and then you don't ever talk to someone. And so we really push the students to say, no, if there's conversations like that, that's important. Take time for that, and you can hear their stories and get to know them in that way. And I know we mentioned before going on air that the last 2 times we've done this, we've had around 200 students come. This year, it's been really unique, and I think Lincoln's kind of got a good reputation, and why, but we've already got 300 plus coming in June that are already signed up, which is really weird this early and stuff. A lot of times youth workers and youth pastors take their time and procrastinate a little bit and stuff, but they're really getting it in there.
And you have a waiting list.
And there's a waiting list for more, so we're working on maybe even expanding those numbers. But I think also it says something about Lincoln community that we have like a team of volunteers that are also do marketing and welcoming. And last time we had stuff on the marquees in town, and like people were saying they'd go to a gas station and people saw their shirts and said, I know why you guys are here. Thanks for serving. And that was my goal, is that Lincoln would really in turn show appreciation and welcome these people that are coming from as far away as, I think we had, I want to say North Carolina, Oklahoma, different, like they come pretty far away sometimes. Kids like a road trip, so they don't like to go like just a half hour to do a big missions trip, thing like that. So I know there's returners from 2021 youth groups that are wanting to come back for that reason, just because,
it's so welcoming.
The cornfields were friendly. So that,
and I know we've talked about this before, and not poking fun at Central Illinois, but we have cornfields, we have bean fields, we have pastures. Yeah. We do not have a waterfall, like they can go whitewater rafting, etc. And but to have, that's a kudos to our community, and a kudos to you guys to making them feel welcome. Because if we are at a capacity right now, max capacity of 300, and hopefully maybe opening it up to 50 more. And growing, for our community, that is wonderful. That says something volumes about you guys behind the scenes and what you're doing too.
And the facilities, I think, we're out at it was LCU in 2021, but now Open Arms, and just great facilities. They stay in a college dorm, and that's probably some of the attraction too, because the normal work camp is at a school on the floor on air mattresses jammed in there and stuff, and the air ventilation is not so good and stuff like that, and starts to smell a certain way when you get teenagers for a week and stuff. And
the teenager smell.
But this is, they get beds and air conditioning, and I've told you.
They truly get to rest. They're out there working every
that's the thing.
Day.
They work hard.
And they actually get to sleep and rest up for that next day.
Yeah. And it is in the summer, so it gets, we never know in Central Illinois what the weather's going to look like in June. And so, they do get to rest. And so that's something that Todd and I have worked hard with for lodging and making sure that they have a great place for them. And I think they get kind of spoiled being in that college dorm environment rather than in a gymnasium somewhere. And so maybe that is the appeal. I think in 2021, though, when we were starting to tell the community, hey,
We got kids coming.
we're gonna bring like 200 or 300 kids into our community. People are like, no, you're not.
And to do what?
Right, exactly. And
You're going
so-
to give them a power saw? So-
Yeah. So I think there was a little bit of nervousness, maybe even a little fear of what that was going to look like. But I think now that, again, we've had success and we proved kind of the
We know what
impact.
we're doing. It's a great thing.
Yes, and not only it seems like the kids are excited to come back, but I think the community gets more and more excited about it every time we do one, and understand that we're not just bringing a whole bunch of teens here to cause trouble. We're bringing a whole bunch of teens here to make a true impact, not only in the lives of the residents, their own lives, but just into the lives of our community as well. So it really has been something very awesome to be a part of,
So Todd, tell us, before we went on the air, we were talking about how, this is faith-based. It's not just denominational. So when these kids come, they don't get to stay with that group that they came with their youth group, correct?
Right. It's
Well,
kind of neat, the
things are kind of
ecumenical
a-
thing, because like you said, we have Catholic, Pentecostal, Baptist, Lutheran, the gamut there. When at a typical house, there would be 6 students and 1 adult, but all those 6 students are from different churches, so they're not with their own youth group. And so there's that component as well of just learning that, hey, I've been in my silo of my church and my denomination. All of a sudden, there's a lot more people that love Jesus around here and stuff, and learning their faith traditions and bonding with them. So youth groups coming get that extra kind of experience. But then also, as we do have program times in the evening stuff where people worship together and that kind of thing. But even then, they're very interdenominational and we focus on Jesus and the big idea. And but then they get youth group time at night where they're with their own Methodist youth group or their own Catholic youth group, to where in their own faith tradition they can kind of talk about some things maybe unique to that. So they don't lose their identity within a youth group and stuff, but they definitely expand, which I think is so important, because so many students, the statistics would say that once they get to college, walk away from their faith. But now they're getting to see there's a lot more teenagers out there that love God or believe in Him, and kind of before these kids are coming as teenagers. So maybe it's inspiring them to say, maybe this is a lifelong thing that I can hold on to.
Well, you're also working on their mindset of being accepting of others.
Yes.
And how everybody is different. We're all an acquired taste.
Yep.
And they get to truly work on that, and you're teaching them life skills
as well as
Just not-
serving others. I think
Yeah.
a lot of our teenagers today don't have that component, and so we're also teaching that component to serve others, to serve people that maybe are have less than you do. Again, that multi-generational interaction that we give them with some of the elderly residents. So there's definitely multi-layers to the onion when you start peeling it away about what this can impact.
And they're actually having a conversation.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, nothing against electronics, but they're not texting or emailing or Snapchatting
Right.
or whatever other platforms are out there. They're actually putting down electronics and having a real conversation with whoever it may be.
It's
Yeah.
amazing the life change that happens in 1 week. And it's unfortunate, because I'm a former youth pastor who did lessons weekly and that kind of thing, but it's amazing what can be accomplished in 1 week versus 36 weeks of lesson. Just by, you're away from home, you're out of your element, you're in a unique situation, you're with a bunch of people you don't know, you're working really hard in the heat, doing things you've never done before, and just that vulnerability breeds taking in new concepts, new ideas, new change and stuff. And kids really, these are the kind of experiences they remember for the rest of their life that really have a big impact.
And many
on them.
repeat
Yeah.
campers, whether they come back to Lincoln or they go to another camp location, a lot of repeat campers that maybe start out and they're like, wow, this is actually really awesome. And then they continue to do that, potentially even come back to be part of the group red shirts, and kind of, come back as an adult volunteer, which is pretty cool. Of course, I'm the money gal at Capsule, and so I also look at this not only from a personal and community impact, but an economic
financial impact to us.
The economic impact. And one of the things that we really strive for, and Todd works really well on, is making sure that our local businesses are spotlighted and they get some love as well while the kids are here. And so the supplies are purchased locally. And so, that impact and that, financial impact is coming back into our community. And then usually we do one of the dinners. He's kind of had this idea and does like a taste of Lincoln. You never would have thought some of these pieces would go together for a meal. But we try to spotlight some of our local restaurants that are kind of known to Lincoln and to Logan County, and we kind of bring them in, and we're going to be like, okay, we're going to offer, I think, egg rolls usually from Chi, and
pizza, breadsticks, hamburgers, things you wouldn't normally eat together, but the kids love the buffet, and they're like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, a little taste of Lincoln to welcome them in. And so we really try to, again, like you said, really try to focus on what our community can provide, and how amazing we are outside of not having whitewater rafting.
Right. and we have blinders on. We live, breathe, and eat it every day, so we need to take those blinders off and look at it as a tourist, what's here, and be excited about that.
And those kids do get a half day on during the middle of the week, and so they get to go out in the community. We try to set up a couple of fun things for them to do, but they're also going to our businesses, and they're utilizing our businesses while they're here. And so just being able to bring that economic impact to our local community through work camps is, amazing. And I know our small businesses appreciate it very much. And we can't do that, obviously, without having the funds to bring them here. So that's the component we're working on right now is, fundraising and bringing in those funds so that we can make sure that the kids have an amazing time and they want to come back. And then, of course, while they're here, that's when they're going to be able to bring that financial impact back to the community.
So on an average, let's just say a wheelchair ramp. What, on an average, does a wheelchair ramp cost? So
Probably
we're talking funds.
Probably like $1,500.
Okay.
A house paint would be $400 or $500, something like that. So
And we're buying the paint supplies, from Sherwin-Williams, local RP Lumber for the lumber, and those supplies. So if somebody says, I don't have a house, or that needs to be repaired, but I'd like to give a little bit, how does one go about donating and reaching out and doing that and saying, hey, what can we do?
The easiest way is to probably go to our website, which is capsule.info. There is a Workcamp for Lincoln page. Not only is that where they can start their application if they're wanting to apply to be a part of the Workcamp, but there's also a place on the website that they can actually donate to the project. And whether they want to donate monetary donations, whether they want to donate their time, there's so many ways that people can participate depending on what their means look like. But capsule.info is the best place to go. Our Facebook page has all of the most up-to-date information. There's tons of posts already for Workcamp. They can also just go to workcampforlincoln.com, and that'll link them right to our website. And they can call if they have questions. They can call our central office, and we can help them through that process. They can bring a check to us if they want to do that. There's so many different options, and we're very flexible. But yes, we would love for them to be a part of it, whether that's small, large, in-person, monetary, whatever that looks like.
And I believe the dates are June 21st through the 27th. Is that correct?
Yes.
When they're going to be descending upon us, these 300 teenagers.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. So you'll see lots of more information and spotlights coming throughout that time, and we'll be spotlighting sponsors and getting excited as the kids get a little bit closer to coming.
Lloyd, what questions do you have?
Well, you mentioned that obviously they work on the projects during the day, and then they have some youth group time in the evening. I think in the past you've also done some other activities I seem to recall maybe took the kids to a movie or showed a movie or
Yeah, on that
things.
Wednesday, the day off, so because we don't have the whitewater rafting and the mountains to climb and that kind of thing.
They can walk beans.
They,
You know, they can go walk
I didn't think
beans.
about that. Opportunity on the farm, yeah. Slop the hogs. But they, so we typically put together some kind of party or something. We've been at the bowling alley or different things. The movie theater's been awesome, they got to go to a free movie. So like 150 kids or something like that did that last year and stuff, and got to see a new release for free. So shout out to VIP Cinemas. And but then one of the reasons, not only to provide some kind of entertainment for them, because there's they'd have to go to Peoria, Bloomington, or something like that, but also they're free until 7:30 that evening, so supper's on their own. And so I want them to eat in Lincoln. And so by keeping them in town, then right after the party, things like that, then they go to a restaurant in town to spend their money for supper as well. And so that's why we do that.
And so if there's a business that would be willing to donate their facilities or
Yes.
an activity type place or whatever, again, they would fall under the donation and contact you folks and let you know, hey, we're willing to do
Absolutely.
this.
Yeah, and if there's a local restaurant too that wants to offer, a discount or something for them to come to eat there, if they come and they show I know Guest House has done that a couple of times for some of our volunteers. We would love to know that so that we can help promote that to not only the adults that are going to be here, but also to the youth. And so let us know if you're willing to do that. I can't remember what Guest House offered, but they were helping our volunteers stay caffeinated last time.
Yeah, and we put together too a cinch sack of like safety stuff, like goggles and wet wipes and everything like that. But then also in there, a lot of times we've had businesses put gift cards in to different places to get a coffee or that kind of thing. And so certainly there's place for businesses to invest there as well, and that gift in kind of donation stuff.
Yeah, and because we're a 501c3, anyone that does make a donation can use that for a tax deduction. And so definitely, like I said, reach out, whether that's calling the central office at 217-732-2159, or going to our Facebook page, or going to Workcamp for Lincoln.com, and then that'll transfer you to the capsule site and can make a donation that way.
Very good.
There you go. Yeah. I think it's wonderful. I mean, and again, a kudos to all of you, because if you've gone from 200 now to 300 and a waiting list for teenagers, again, let's stress that, teenagers wanting to come,
Yeah.
nothing against Central Illinois, but, to the cornfields, bean fields, our pastures, and work and give back to our community, that says something wonderful about behind the scenes for you guys. So that is amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is absolutely wonderful. So, but again, we're urging, get applications in now.
Yes.
So we're not out there looking at homes with snow and the cold. And
Yeah,
Right.
and I haven't checked my email yet this morning, but I did update Todd yesterday before I left that we have already gotten 10 applications started.
Wonderful.
Since it went live on Monday. So if you are interested,
You've got to give
definitely.
up your applications on how many houses now, possibly, since you're at 300, correct? Of you can serve.
Yeah. Yep. And I should say that we're emphasizing homes that need a lot of work done, because ideally we want a group of students to stay there for the week and work on things. So I know last go around it was like somebody would sign up and say, I just need my gutters cleaned. Well, that's kind of a half-day job, and we don't want the students to go to like 4 houses during the week.
Right.
So think about several things we could do around your house to keep
Kind of
those kids busy.
make a list.
And there's check boxes on the application they can
Yep.
see. But then when we send out our volunteers to the home, they'll help look and find some things. Say, hey, we could do this. We could put those baseboards. We could replace those, or we could do, but we're emphasizing. So when the applications have a better chance of making it to approval until the final cut if there's a significant amount of work to do.
So it's not just one thing they don't, specifically need.
Right.
If they have little things that may add up to a week for these kids to do.
Correct.
Yes, this is not one of those situations where you want to be shy about what you want out of this event. I tell people when they fill out the application, like, fill out as many boxes as you can, because that is something that the assessment team, when they're there, they can talk about, they can communicate about, they can look at and do that. But I do have a couple of times where I've had homeowners that are like, oh, well, I could probably use this, but really I just need this. And they just like, they almost feel
Like they're imposing.
That they're
right.
imposing, yes.
Yes, and I really do tell them, no, like these kids are coming, they are here to work, this is what they're here for, they want to be busy, and so don't feel like you putting 3 check marks versus 1 check mark is a bad thing. So this is not one of those situations where you want to shy away from it. We want to know.
Fill it all out.
Yes, we want to know.
Yeah, so usually if it's not electrical or plumbing, which is kind of other certified things like that,
Right.
there's just a plethora of things that they could choose from stuff. So yeah, as much as
And
possible.
volunteers, if you're listening, and if you don't want to give monetarily, you can give of your time. You're also looking for those types of volunteers too,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
is there a box, or how do they, reach out to you? Say, hey, I've looked at my calendar, June 21st through 27th, I'm available, or this day I am. How do they go about doing that, Brianne and Todd?
Yeah, so on the website, there is a place that if they're making a donation, they can do that. If they're volunteering, they can also fill out a form, and then it notifies me that they're open to volunteering. And then I can send that information over to Todd so he can kind of figure out the logistics there about where we need them and where they'll be the most helpful, and then we'll make it work.
A big process, you guys. And again, kudos. Hats off to you, Lloyd. Do you have anything else? All right. Jim's, he's good. We're giving the thumbs up there. So anyway, well, Brianne and Todd, thank you so much for coming. Again, listeners, again, one more time, Brianne, for our listeners, how do they go about getting in touch with?
Yeah, so workcampforlincoln.com, the Facebook page for Capsule, and then our central office phone number is 217-732-2159.
And we'll have information on our website, not to put Lloyd on the spot, but I know he will, and then also on Facebook. So again, thank you both for coming. The Lord and weather willing, we'll be back next week. Thanks, folks.
This live video stream is made possible in part by WLCN's live stream technology sponsor, Me Realty, located at 602 Keokuk Street in Lincoln, and online at merealty.com. The preceding program is a presentation of WLCN 96.3 FM and WLCNonline.com.